occurs after a person dies? Does the self disappear into nothingness or move through realms beyond our understanding? Welcome, seeker of truth, to the greatest of all mysteries. Today, we will examine one of the most important and mysterious texts in Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thodol, commonly known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Think of a guide that leads you through the most significant and mysterious moments of existence. This is the purpose of the Bardo Thodol. It's not merely a basic manual about the end of life. It serves as a map, a spiritual guide for what occurs immediately after death. Get ready, as together we will enter this realm, interpret its messages, and maybe gain a better understanding of existence. The Bardo Thodol was written by Padmasambhava, a legendary and almost mythical figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, he is known for bringing Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Tibetan tradition honors him as Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious master. However, Padmasambhava was more than just a monk. He was a highly skilled spiritual leader, a yogi who mastered mystical techniques and secret teachings. The Bardo Thodol was created from his wish to guide not only the living, but also the dead, providing a path to freedom even after death. From a young age, Padmasambhava showed remarkable mystical abilities, earning the title of Mahasiddha, a person who achieved a high level of spiritual understanding and developed miraculous spiritual powers, known as siddhis. King Trisong Detsen invited him to Tibet to spread Buddhism and spiritually strengthen the nation, bringing the people together under one belief system. During that period, Tibet was rich in shamanic practices and animist beliefs, deeply rooted in the Bon religion, the native Tibetan spiritual tradition. This varied and somewhat chaotic spiritual environment made spreading Buddhism challenging. When Padmasambhava arrived in Tibet, he encountered opposition from different cultural and spiritual groups. The local deities and spirits from Bon traditions opposed Buddhism. So Padmasambhava used his knowledge of magic and tantric rituals to calm these spirits. Incorporating Bon deities and practices into Tibetan Buddhism was key to building a lasting spiritual base. Therefore, Padmasambhava established Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, Samye Monastery, and started teaching deep ideas about the mind, reality, and the cycle of existence called samsara. Tibetan Buddhism understands death not as an end, but as a transition, a moment opening the door to spiritual freedom. Padmasambhava knew that at death, the mind enters a special state where, away from the body's distractions, it can better grasp the ultimate truth. He saw this as a unique chance for freedom, but also recognized that most people, upon dying, get caught in illusions and fears that block this possibility. His mission was to develop a guide for those with the dying to recite, or for people to study while alive, so the mind would be ready for the bardos, the transitional states after death. Essentially, he aimed to reduce suffering and create paths to enlightenment, even when things feel uncertain and are fading away. This compassion forms the basis of the Bardo Thodol. He also understood that many people might not reach enlightenment during life, so he saw death as a final chance and provided instructions for followers to recognize the clear light, the pure expression of the mind at their passing. The Bardo Thodol leads us through three main states, or bardos, that every soul passes through. In the Chikhai Bardo, the soul experiences death itself, a transitional phase where the physical body breaks down and consciousness is released from material constraints. After the dissolution, the soul faces the primordial clear light, which the Bardo Thodol describes as a brilliant, pure, and vast light. The clear light represents the mind's true nature, a state of pure, unconditional consciousness without duality, fear, or attachment. Some refer to it as the higher self, while others call it the solar mind. This state of completeness and endless peace has many names. For spiritual practitioners, the Chikhai Bardo presents the chance for final liberation. If the soul recognizes the clear light as its true self, it achieves instant liberation, nirvana, and doesn't need to go through the other bardos. This understanding doesn't rely on rituals or teachings. It's a direct and complete experience of truth, where the mind sees itself without any filters or distortions. At this point, all conditioning, karma, and identities disappear. However, for those who aren't ready, the strong clear light can be frightening. Instead of seeing the light as its true nature, the mind might see it as a threat because of fear or attachment to what's familiar. In this situation, the soul pulls back, loses the chance for liberation, and moves into the next bardos, facing more distorted and limiting visions based on its karmic tendencies. As Carl Gustav Jung stated, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and unavoidable, until we understand them as parts of ourselves. In the Chönyid Bardo, the soul is in a state of consciousness without its physical body, in a realm where clear boundaries no longer exist. Here, the soul sees projections of its own mind, which can appear as both angelic forms and disturbing, frightening visions. This bardo shows the mind's essence, where everything that has been repressed, desired, or feared comes out in a stronger form. The visions in the Chönyid Bardo directly show the emotional and karmic states the soul has built up over lifetimes. They appear in two different forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. During the peaceful vision stage, the soul first sees peaceful deities that symbolize enlightened and kind aspects of consciousness. These figures might look like Buddhas, bodhisattvas, or deities of light, showing the positive qualities developed by the soul. The peaceful visions have a calm presence and provide a feeling of peace. However, for an unprepared mind, these visions can be overwhelming or hard to understand, causing the soul to pull back and question the reality of the experience. In the wrathful vision stage, if the soul doesn't see the peaceful, true nature of the first visions, it slowly faces more intense visions called wrathful deities. These figures represent anger, fear, and repressed desires, appearing as monstrous and unsettling forms. It's important to know that these wrathful deities aren't external or evil beings, but expressions of the mind itself, showing the passions and attachments that keep the soul tied to suffering. The Chönyid Bardo is described as a state where the mind is not limited by the physical body. It's a pure state of psychic expression, where everything is intensified. The visions that appear are like dreams, but unlike regular dreams, they are strikingly clear and vivid. This happens because the mind, now without the body, experiences its internal energies without any filters. Everything that was repressed and built up comes out with nearly tangible intensity. These visions are seen as chances for learning and enlightenment, as each one represents a part of the self that needs to be integrated or overcome. Those who stay fully aware during this bardo can see that all these visions, good and bad, peaceful and wrathful, are just creations of the mind. Recognizing this truth allows the soul to eliminate fear and achieve liberation. At this point, the Bardo Thodol advises the soul to concentrate on the clear light, the mind's original essence, described as a vast and pure radiance. Seeing the clear light is the key to complete liberation, because it represents the natural nature of all beings. It is like the sun among clouds of visions, the light that stays the same despite all mental projections. If the soul can look beyond the visions, it can reach enlightenment and escape the cycle of rebirth. However, seeing the clear light is not easy for most minds. For most people, the visions are so real and full of personal meaning that it's hard to look beyond them. Because of this, the Bardo Thodol recommends that spiritual practitioners train during life to detach from illusions and think about the mind's nature. With this training, even when encountering the intense visions of the Chönyid Bardo, they can keep their focus on the clear light and find peace. Fear and attachment are the biggest obstacles to liberation. The intense visions can cause deep fear, especially the wrathful deities, which represent uncontrolled parts of the psyche. This fear creates a feeling of separation, stopping the soul from seeing the visions as parts of itself. The soul might want to escape from these visions, or, due to attachment, focus on some of them, especially the peaceful visions, keeping it tied to the cycle of samsara. To break this cycle, the soul must see the visions as not real on their own. In Tibetan Buddhism, this idea is called shunyata, or emptiness. The mind that remembers emptiness during the Chönyid Bardo can watch all visions but stays unattached, seeing them as just temporary expressions of its own nature. So, experiencing the Chönyid Bardo isn't a punishment or meaningless suffering, but a time of revelation where the soul faces a reflection of its own mind. It is a test that separates those ready for liberation from those who still need rebirth to further their learning. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the soul faces a critical moment, the choice of its next body, determined by the combined energy of all actions, thoughts, and intentions, known as karma. It's like the entire previous journey has brought us to this point where our inner qualities decide our next destination. Entering this bardo, the soul has already gone through dissolution in the Chikhai Bardo and encountered its own projections and illusions in the Chönyid Bardo. Now, it is in a state of higher psychic density, where the desire for rebirth grows stronger, driven by fears and attachments that haven't been overcome. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that this desire drives the soul to seek a new body, a new form of existence. In the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness is affected by karmic tendencies, which are subtle marks left by actions from past lives. These marks act like magnetic forces, pulling the soul towards situations and experiences that reflect its inner state. For example, if the soul holds a lot of fear, that fear might lead it to a rebirth where it will encounter those same emotions. Similarly, strong desires and uncontrolled emotions create a whirlpool of energy that shapes the type of life the soul will experience in the next cycle. During the Sidpa Bardo, the soul goes through a series of visions related to the rebirth process. These visions often show images of couples together, symbolizing the creation of new life. Here, the soul is asked to choose a new body, unconsciously guided by emotional tendencies and karmic impulses. In many accounts, the Bardo Thodol advises that when seeing these images, the soul should stay detached and clear-minded. Only then can it prevent being blindly pushed into an unwanted rebirth. For those who can stay calm and detached, the Sidpa Bardo offers one last opportunity for transcendence. There's still the chance of not being reborn, of choosing the path to liberation. This is the aim of the spiritual practitioner. Instead of being reborn influenced by illusions and attachments, they must see these visions as expressions of their own mind, temporary and empty in nature. During the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness feels a strong pull toward a new body, a process that the Bardo Thodol compares to a psychic storm. It's as if the desire to keep existing, to be alive once more, becomes impossible to resist. Choosing a new body isn't a conscious decision. It occurs through a deep instinctive urge, where the features of the new rebirth are shaped by the mind's condition. It's like the next body is a mirror of what the soul's mind needs to experience or solve. This choosing process also shows the Buddhist belief that each rebirth is a chance for spiritual growth. The body the soul chooses matches its karmic and spiritual development most closely. However, many don't grasp this opportunity and are reborn in difficult conditions where suffering continues. Those who can look past this illusion may reach a state where, instead of rebirth, they can merge with the clear light, the mind's ultimate essence. According to the Bardo Thodol, preparation for this final stage starts during life. By thinking about the nature of our desires and fears while alive, we become more aware of the impulses that shape our destiny. Spiritual practices like meditation and reflecting on death build the ability to detach, helping the mind stay free from the dramas that occur in the Sidpa Bardo. Thus, the Sidpa Bardo shows a simple yet deep truth, that life and death are connected, and that the cycle of rebirth is just a continuous expression of our own choices and perceptions. By freeing ourselves from attachments, we free ourselves from the cycle of rebirth and attain enlightenment, a state with no more rebirth because the illusion of a fixed identity is gone. The Bardo Thodol is not just a religious text or a collection of secret beliefs. It is a tool for self-knowledge, a mirror for our mind, and a map for our destiny. It teaches us that death is the final period in the human story, but also the doorway to new beginnings. As Ram Dass said, "When you die, the only important question is, how much did you love?" In this way, the Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to reflect on our own lives. Are we ready for the final journey? Are we prepared to let go of everything we think we are? Perhaps by thinking about these teachings, we can not only prepare for death, but also learn to truly live. If this exploration into the unknown spoke to you, share this video and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments what interests you most about life after death, because the path to self-knowledge is long, and together we can explore the greatest mysteries of existence. Thank you for watching.